Hi theory students. Today I'm going to give you a demonstration of third species counterpoint. I'll show you some of the guidelines and special features, and then I'll give you some examples. The rhythmic feature is that the counterpoint is now in a 4-to-1 relation to the cantus. That is to say, there are 4 quarter notes per measure for every whole note in the cantus, except for the very last measure, which is a whole note tonic, just as before. As far as dissonance goes, the downbeat is always consonant, just like we did in first and second species. The other beats may use passing tones. We learned about that in second species. Neighbor tones, which are more common here than they are in second species. Or we could have two new combinations, a double neighbor tone and the cambiata, or changing tones. I'll show you each one. Take this situation. Here, if I start with a C, and assume this is in the middle of a counterpoint line, that's a sixth, and if I want to get to a third on the next downbeat, what I really would like to have is a C on the last beat of this measure, and I can do this by going to the neighbor below the C, immediately to the neighbor above the C, and then back to the C. So these two notes form a double neighbor, both the lower neighbor to C and the upper neighbor to C. Note that although this is a seventh, which is dissonant, I am skipping to it, and that's permissible because I'm using both the lower and upper neighbors to this note. You can start with the lower neighbor first and then go to the upper one, or the other way around. I chose this combination because I wanted to be able to step down to the B and not have the repetition of B, C, B. The cambiata figure is almost like a double neighbor, except instead of going back to the first note of the measure, you're going down to a different note. So here's an example. If I want to start on a sixth over here, what I'm doing now is using a figure in which I end up with passing tones going that way, but it's as though the C here is a neighbor to the D and the A is a neighbor to the B. That's called a cambiata or changing tone figure, and these are also useful. As far as perfect consonances go, it's a lot like second species. We can't have the same perfect consonants, that is to say 8 to 8 on consecutive downbeats, or 5 to 5 on consecutive downbeats, or move in similar motion to a perfect consonance across the bar line. So we can't have both lines going up across the bar line to a fifth, or both going up across the bar line to an octave. For the end, the last measure will be a whole note tonic, and the next to last measure will be 4 quarter notes, starting and ending on the leading tone. We'll often do this with a double neighbor figure. and a general profile of these third species. Because there are so many notes, 4 notes in the counterpoint for every note in the cantus, there's less reason to have large leaps or 2 skips in a row. When we do have them, it's because we want to adjust the register of the line and move it from an upper register to a lower one, or vice versa. Otherwise, it's not that hard to use 4 notes to get wherever you'd like to go in the region where you are. Try to move by step across the bar line. So here's a complete example now. I'm doing this across 2 pages. The cantus goes like this. And the counterpoint fits in this way. The line continues here. A few features about this. Note the cambiata or changing tones where I'm actually skipping from the 7th to go down here. And these changing tones form a neighbor to the E to start, and then a neighbor to the C to finish. Note also that I have 6 and 6 here, 6 and 6 there, but I changed this up so that I didn't go. I could have used the same pattern twice in a row, but mixing it up a little bit is good for variety. And I'm ending with a double neighbor on a leading tone to resolve to the tonic. So that's a good example for third species. The new features: increased use of the neighbor tone, the double neighbor as we saw here, and the cambiata or changing tones as we saw in this measure. That's all for this video.